not only cools the turbocharger and gives us the massive horsepower that the LT7 can deliver, but it also reduces downforce. It's a pressure relief at the front of the car, or increases downforce. It's a pressure relief at the front of the car. We can get more flow over the front underwing and help get the car planted to the ground. Under the ZR1, we use strakes, much like a lot of racing cars use, F1 cars. You want to guide the air underneath the car. The simple idea, although complicated sometimes in execution, is to evacuate it as quickly as you possibly can. Get the air moving under the car, especially around the front tires that are big blockers of air and have a giant weight behind them. So we try to get air into that low pressure zone. When air moves faster, if you remember from physics class, Bernoulli's principle, it imparts a pressure on a surface, and so that helps keep the car planted to the ground. And of course, when you generate 1,064 horsepower, we gotta cool it off. It's a massive challenge, a big energy equation to convert that kind of power output, that kind of heat output, into a vehicle like the ZR1 that will be robust in all operating environments, including around the car. And every one of those heat exchangers needs some form of air going to it, and so some of the details that Rich talked about are clever ways not only to get air into that heat exchanger, but to do it in an efficient way. We talked about the chassis packages a little bit for the ZR1. Rich mentioned the Gentleman's Express that we call the standard, if there is such a thing as a standard ZR1. We tuned the chassis though to bookend the Z06. So for those of you that are familiar with the Z06, there's one sitting right over there. That car is an all-out track car. That's why we designed it, that's why we brought it to market, and that's what people love most about that car. Of course, a ZR1 with its capabilities will be a track monster as well, but we also want to do a chassis package that's a little bit softer, a little more forgivable, a little more likely to be taken on a long trip and used every day. And the standard ZR1 chassis package does that. It's kind of mind-blowing to think, you know, those of us that have got to drive a car around and even on public roads under camouflage, you're driving a car that has this much power. It's just that approachable, it's that livable. You can stay in it for a long time. It's not going to try to knock you out of the car. That reveal was a week ago last Thursday, and since then I'm sure you've heard about the ZR1 or read about it or been given even unrequested feed on your phones and other devices, but it really has excited the world for good reason. And I won't read all these headlines, but some of them are a great nod to what we can do in the US with a car like the Corvette. A Chevy from Kentucky can blow away the world with this kind of performance. Some other facts about ZR1 just to kind of put some of the work that we've done into perspective. So 1,064 horsepower, that's more than twice the power of an LS7 engine that was in the legendary Z06 from the 6th generation Corvette. That shocked the world with 505 horsepower. Each bank of the LT7 is flowing more air and producing more power than the LT7 engine did all along. The turbos, they're pretty innovative. They're really, really big, 76 millimeter compressor wheel. We've done some really clever things for anti-lag is what we call it, to maximize boost and reduce turbo lag that you generally get with large turbos. And one of the enablers in that big turbo is the impeller wheel, which sees a lot of exhaust gas, and that wheel sees temperatures, that turbine sees temperatures that are about 2/3 of a space shuttle tile on re-entry. And they rotate about 1.7 times the speed of sound. So you think about some of the punishment that hardware inside an engine like the LT7 has to go through. It moves so much air that if you could produce peak power and just sitting still with the car in neutral, you'd get 37 pounds of thrust just out of the exhaust, pushing the car forward. We had to upgrade our dyno facility. We have dyno facilities here in Pontiac, Michigan. We knew the ZR1 was going to overwhelm those dynos, and so like planning the 8th generation Corvette, we planned our facilities to test it. And even with that planning, we still managed to break dynos. The engine actually broke the input shaft to a dyno, and the exhaust temperatures get so hot that we can only run it for a certain period of time to avoid over-temping the exhaust stack. Some of us were making comments that NASA has satellite imagery, and they called the front office and said, hey, we're getting these thermal plumes from Pontiac, Michigan. What the hell are you guys doing over there? Okay, that was a lot of information quickly, and again, I apologize. It's a cool video, not a car. There is a beautiful Z06 over there you can take a look at, but I think a lot of you want to ask Rich and I some questions, and so we can start there.
Okay, go ahead, sir.
She sure does.
Yes, Barry is aware.
Yeah.
Yes.
Is there any way you could have accommodated front end along with the cooling? I have a C8. I like my front.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the question, well, I'll repeat it. I don't know if everyone can hear it. He's asking, could we have saved the front trunk in the ZR1? And the answer, again, with my practically impossible analogy I used before is no, because we have what's called we call it a fruct. It's a giant air duct.
Yeah.
If you put a bag in there, you might not like what happens to it. It'd get wet and hot and melty probably. But we wanted to use that heat exchanger like I talked about before to get as much air through the front of the car, increase downforce, and out over the top of the car as we possibly could. We did consider putting intercoolers on the side of the car to try to preserve the front. That would have been one way to do it. We just couldn't get nearly as much cooling efficiency, therefore horsepower, by doing that.
On the C8, the trunk gets hot. You wouldn't want to take your ice cream out.
That's right. He's making a comment that the trunk gets hot in the C8, and that's because a muffler is right below it, so yes, it gets pretty warm.
What is your target production volume for 2025?
We are going to build as many ZR1s as we can. And we are not limiting them. We'll build as many as people want to buy. Certainly demand, like all Corvettes have been recently, is going to be very high at the beginning, and our launch is going to be very slow and deliberate. We want to make sure we get all Corvettes right, especially a new one with as much capability and complexity as the ZR1 has. So we aren't going to artificially limit volume. I promise if you are in the market or considering buying a ZR1, bring some patience, but we will get a car to anybody that wants a car. It's not limited to a year or not capped at any specific value.
Go ahead.
The question was, how heavy is the ZR1? It's around 3,600 pounds. So it's a little bit heavier than the Z06, and it's because we've got those big turbos in the car and all these heat exchangers to help cool it off. So a little bit heavier. His follow-up question was, is it scary to be riding in the car at full speed? I would answer that with, it depends on who's driving.
All right.
When sitting in the car, looking through the rear view mirror, can you see through that spine?
Yes, you can.
Oh, yeah.
Yes. Yeah, the spine, the louvers in the spine you can see through.
That's why
Certainly
they
you
took
can
it
use
away
the
in
camera.
63.
Yeah.
Okay.
What's that?
That's why they took it away in 64.
Correct. Yeah. You can see through it. Heat goes out of it. I think the next challenge is, can you see around the wing? That's the next hard one. But Mr. Nowicki.
What's the price going to be?
He knows we can't answer that.
I was pretty sure he knew that.
Jeff, for you, special price.
Yeah.
We're still adding it up.
Yeah. More zeros for him. Go ahead.
Is there a new special weight oil that the
C8 doesn't use now for this particular motor?
No, we use the same oil that we use in the LT6. So one of the things they do share is the architecture of their lube system and the oil that goes with it.
So somebody that sells, the two questions that were asked, that Jeff asked this gentleman. Number one, production value, it's great to hear that you're not going to do production. But following up on the price question, you know when you're going to announce the price.
We'll announce the price before we sell them.
We think, right? We think.
Market price, right?
Exactly. Market price. I like
Market
that
price,
one.
exactly.
Shut down flat tours.
Yeah, the question, he's asking about plant tours, and they've been hard to get to lately. For those that haven't been to Bowling Green Assembly in Bowling Green, Kentucky, I highly recommend going there, except lately it's been a challenge to get tours. We're going to open it up next week and then again in 2 weeks for tours. But the answer to your question is this car why they've been closed for tours is yes. Yeah, we've got a lot of things going on during launch. And obviously we can't bring the public in to see everything that we're doing. But as soon as we can open it up for tours we'll do that.
But
So it's only going to rev to 8,000 instead of 8,600 on the Z06?
You caught that. You're catching the details. Yes, the red line for the LT7 is 8,000 RPM, which, by the way, that's a lot, in case you were wondering. But not as high as the LT6 at 8,600.
So lower compression rate.
Yes, so the compression ratio on the LT6 is about 12.5. On the LT7, it's down to around 9.8. And we had to beef up, imagine the combustion pressures that generate 1,064 horsepower. So we had to increase the thickness of the piston. It's a dished piston to get more combustion volume, but the piston is still heavier because it's got to react to all those loads, as is the titanium connecting rod. So that extra rotating mass adds loads at the square of velocity that it's rotating at. So there was a reason, and we tuned the rest of the size, the turbochargers, the induction system, and everything around, knowing that our peak RPM was going to be around 8,000.
So less vibration than in the Z06 because of the exponential?
Yes. So when you're spinning the engine less, you get less vibration in general. Flat plane cranks have a tendency to have lateral vibration, which will still be, that's actually, we celebrated that in the Z06. We kind of showed it off a little bit when we designed the mounts for the car. The ZR1 has that character, but not as visceral, I'll say, as the Z06 is in that way.
We have time for one more question.
Two-wheel drive or four-wheel drive? Four-wheel drive. Is the car two-wheel drive or all-wheel drive?
It's rear-wheel drive, two-wheel.
Was there any consideration of having doing all the radar able to do all-wheel drive?
Never even thought about that.
let's have to wait and see.
Okay, so you guys said that at the Dream Cruise, there should be,
Yes.
right?
Fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed. Okay, so can you give a hint where that would be if it's there?
The Chevrolet display, that's at like Woodward and Old Woodward, at the South Triangle there.
Okay. So I have one question for you. When you guys, when people see these amazing Corvettes, what do you want them to think? What is the first thought?
I want them to think what I thought when I first saw a Corvette, and it was life-changing. I still remember it, and I was just a kid. And when you look at the proportions of the 8th generation Corvette, what Rich and the design team have done with the car, it's just so striking. We've been selling it now for 5 years, a little more than 5 years, and it still gets a lot of attention. And so we want to keep that mission and see kids interested in the car. I've seen a bunch around that car here today, and that's one thing that tells us, hey, we're doing the right thing. We respect our past, but we're always looking forward to future Corvette owners, future generations.
Certainly, we hope that customers and people fall in love with it just like we have. So they kind of led us on this journey for our jobs and what we get to do for a living, and
Not a bad
all of the
gig.
car. It's awesome. It's awesome. Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you guys so much. Are you around the rest of the afternoon?
Be around here.
Okay, so they'll be around. If you have more questions, you want to talk to them in person, they will be around. Where will you be? Over
Somewhere.
Somewhere,
Look at all the cars
somewhere.
and get a chance to see
I
all the
know,
great
right? They're
cars out
beautiful. What an amazing day.
Beautiful show.
Thank you guys so much. This is the end of Tech Talks. It's been amazing. The one thing that I've heard throughout these 3 sessions is passion, and also nostalgia. And, you know, and that's something that, you know, when you see that old car that your grandfather used to drive or even your parents, you know, it's something that touches you. And it's just so amazing. So thank you guys so much for spending the time with us. We appreciate it. We look forward to seeing the ZR1. Thank you.
Thank you.
And of course, Tech Talk, sponsored by Gallagher Global Brokerage. Gallagher is your trusted insurance and consulting partner, offering a world of solutions. Thank you, Gallagher Global Brokerage, for sponsoring Tech Talks, and of course, fueling education.
Well, there you guys have it. Well, we're gonna have the ZR1 hopefully at the World Dream Cruise. So hopefully I'll see it there. But we got the C8 Z06 for 2025. This is here for now, so I'll show it out to you guys, and then you guys can take a look at it. Thanks for watching, guys. Drop a like, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Take it easy. Alright, y'all. 2025 Corvette Z06. Accelerate yellow, I think.
That's where the similarities start to end. So the LT7 is not just an LT6 and a Z06 engine.
These are new wheels.
It was designed for boosted performance, and that's how we got so much work on it.
Carbon ceramics.
Which mentions it's the first time we've ever done factory-equipped twin-turbo Corvette. Some of you may have heard of Callaway Corvettes.
So they're talking about the ZR1 right now. They're the press briefing over there. Talking about the ZR1. Check out this interior, y'all. What a gorgeous car. You guys can pause and zoom in.
Quite some time. In fact, we played with turbocharged versions of Corvettes back when they were trying. It was a real challenge. I like to say, because nothing is impossible, practically impossible. Sure, you can do something that have a bunch of trade-offs.
Let's throw some extra brownie points. We got this really cool Pontiac Banshee concept. This is freaking sick, dude. It's from 1988. I think this is what the McLaren F1, I'm sorry, McLaren Speedtail was based off of, because look at the rear end. I'm going to show you guys the rear end of this thing. It's a massive fishbowl, but look, guys. Look at the rear end. It literally reminds you of the McLaren Speedtail. Absolutely crazy. Pontiac. Excuse me. This thing's a fish freaking bowl. Holy crap, race car. Wonder what the engine was in this thing. The gas cap is right there. I wonder if it has a plate on. Is this drivable? I don't even think it has a plate on it. Holy crap. Exhaust tips are like all, they're nowhere to be seen. Probably a side exit exhaust. Christ. I don't even know where the exhaust tips are on this thing, dude. It's probably underneath. It probably has dumps. I think it has drum brakes too. No, it's got rotors. It doesn't have drum brakes. Great heat extractor right there.
The turbochargers are
Corner, you can't see it.
You know, the overall width of the engine, and it physically wouldn't fit in the frame rails. So
Braking system on this is cool. This is like literally supercar, hypercar, well, supercar level. And it's a targa top. You take off the top. Color coded spoiler. I don't know if this is new for 25, but 2025 Z06 has color now spoiler like the E-Ray. E-Ray has the same spoiler, but this has the gurney duck bell right here at the end. You can take those off and just have the spoiler. And then look at the stripe, pearlescent stripe. You got your engine bay right there. Boom. Looking good. Manufacturer car.
And it's got around 800 foot-pounds of torque from 3,000 RPM all the way to 7,000. And I can tell you what it's like to drive it, but won't describe it until you actually get the chance or even to ride in the car.
So they're talking about the ZR1. Like I said from earlier, you guys can hear the audio in the background. Bro, I love Alcantara.
Way, of course, when the ZR1 comes out, I would say it's our life to drive.
These seats are so beautiful. Jeez Louise. Carbon fiber everywhere in the interior.
As much as you can. Notice the number 1064.
I'm at a car event. It's called Troy Traffix Jam.
No, our mission was
Feature car here. It's supposed to be the ZR1, but they brought this instead.
We had a target setting for the output of the LT7 when we started, and when you take the constraints away from a bunch of really, really talented engine wizards, they can far exceed it. So as the engines were being developed, we're looking in on the performance capabilities of the LT7. We're making sure that the rest of the